Well, this is all the rage this time of year, but it's been surprisingly
2 times you've said all the rage.
I know it's
Hey, Daddy-o.
The phrase is all the rage. And this is, I think, something that you'll appreciate to get on video or audio recording.
Sure.
You were right.
Yay.
Stand by. Going to air.
Stand by film.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
Fish are friends, not food.
Make it Centauri time.
Too much iron in your blood.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color?
Hey, what happened? Let's fly!
Let's get pissed and watch boom. Hello, you've got a base.
Are you saying there's something wrong with my gear?
We're going streaking!
He found me!
He's doing his Superman thing.
I still only counts as one!
Why is the rum always gone?
All right, well, welcome to a special 3rd anniversary episode of 20 Years 4 Beers. We are a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from at least 2 decades ago, while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim.
and we are coming to you live-ish from Minneapolis, Minnesota. On this episode, we are covering what I believe to be our first Western.
I believe so.
I could have looked back. There's only 80. I could have looked back at it, but I don't.
No, I think it is.
And another movie that many of you have either never heard of or have not seen. Tonight we are rewatching 2003's Open Range. Before we jump in, though, we typically discuss some more modern choices that we have watched recently, either TV or film. Tim, what have you been watching recently that you would want to talk about?
So I watched the newer movie that just came out that was somewhat on all the rage on the Twitterverse and social media area of different directors and writers. No One Will Save You.
Oh, yeah.
The kind of
On Hulu.
sci-fi on Hulu.
Yeah.
Hulu, exactly. For those interested, it's basically a home invasion story, but the invasion is from a alien presence. So it's kind of like a sci-fi suspense thriller. And I really appreciated it. There was ups and downs overall, but for me, what was most impressive was there's no dialogue.
Yeah.
It's just one woman and trying to manage and grapple with this. So I was thoroughly impressed with their commitment to truly having no dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's just like we talked about, like a silent film of sorts, but very impressive. It was good. And then the other thing I watched, got caught up on finally, was Indiana Jones 5, The Dial of Destiny. We haven't talked about it since you saw it.
Yeah. Did we talk about this in the last one?
We have not.
Okay,
No,
all
because
right.
I watched it since then.
And I don't listen to us. You do. So, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I was so happy to see it.
Yeah.
And we laughed because we both bought it the same day it came out on digital.
Heck yeah.
Finally got around to watching it, and exactly what I was hoping for. I know you had seen it in the theater and said similar things in a previous podcast, but I was so happy with it. There was some flaws, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
But the best part was, and this is, I think, something that you'll appreciate to get on video or audio recording.
Sure.
You were right.
Yay.
I went back and rewatched the until now 4th one, which did not exist in my world after seeing the theater. It was so garbage. It is not as bad as I remember.
Nope.
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yep.
There are definitely some times where it's like, oh, this is really bad.
Oh, yeah.
But-
there are some of the worst moments in the entire franchise
Absolutely.
are in that
Yes.
movie, for sure.
So dumb.
Yes.
But overall, the vibe, and then somewhat like we saw in Blade Runner 2049, where it made the original better.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
5th one, to me, made the 4th better.
Yeah.
Where what they bring in from it and the choices they make to call out
Yeah.
in the 5th one. When it got done, I was actually kind of emotional when the 5th one got done. I was surprised by that. So I was very happy that these 5 movies now can now be all enjoyed. But
Yeah. And to the point where I think the second is the least watchable
Agreed.
of all of them.
yes,
Like it's fine from a movie making standpoint, but the rest of them are better.
yes.
So like 4 is the next on that list for sure. But like, yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I got good out of COVID was I rewatched those during COVID, my COVID experience. So
yeah, I got those are the ones I watched.
good. Yeah, I like the new one too. We talked about it in the past.
It was very enjoyable.
But then you also watched just sort of like you watched No Hard Feelings too.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I did get caught up on that
Yeah,
too.
and I talked about it in a previous episode as well. But yeah, that's
Jennifer
exactly
Lawrence,
what you would want it to be.
So great. It's it's one of those movies that you watch and enjoy and laugh, and it's better than it has any business being.
Yeah,
like, it's very good.
Yep.
So I liked it.
So I'm
What'd you
going to
watch?
talk about 2 movies. There are some TV shows I watched, but the 2 movies
Sure.
I watched, the first is independent film, and the second is a movie that if we were doing this 20 years from now, we'd end up covering. But I watched Theater Camp, I think is what it's called.
I saw that on Hulu.
Yeah, with
like a thing.
Ben Platt and I literally typed it out. I know I watched it. It's Theater Camp, and it's like it's got a bit of. It's not Christopher Guest, like it's not improv or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's a scripted thing. But then the 4 main characters are the people who wrote the thing too. Like they had done a short film. Ben Platt and a couple other people on this. They had done a short film of this, and they just expanded it in. And it had a bit of a less campy, forgive the like pun, Wet Hot American Summer kind of a feel to it, where it's just kind of like absurdity happens, but it's a very niche like absurdity. So if you're a theater kid, you would be like, yeah, I totally relate to this. If you're not, it'd be kind of funny.
Sure.
I liked it, though. I would say it was, I had like 3 out of, I guess we're doing out of 5.
Yeah.
I had 3 out of 5. Totally enjoyable. Like there's actually some heart to it. The kids are really good. And I think that's what obviously is what makes it make or break it. You know, Ben Platt's going to be fine no matter what. But then I finally got around to watching Barbie.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it after you watch it. That's a movie that has no business being as good as it is. I knew it would be good.
Sure.
I knew how to enjoy it based on all the people I knew who had seen it or whatever. But holy cow, like, yeah, it's so flipping good.
Nice.
And it is one that, like, if we happen to be doing this 20 years from now, it would be like, we're going to watch Barbie together.
Absolutely.
Because it's such a huge thing. It's made like $1.5 billion. It's going to be up for Oscars this year. Like, it's absurd. Everyone's good in it. But seriously, Ryan Gosling is just outstanding. And the more you see like clips of the cut scenes and like, because a lot of this was like improv in terms of like, here's a scripted line, but we want to interact this way. And then if you know, Greta Gerwig likes to let people sort of like live in that space or whatever. And yeah, so it's awesome.
I'm really excited to see it. Yeah.
It's good. All right. Well, as mentioned on this episode, we are going to be rewatching Open Range. Open Range follows a small group of free graze cattlemen bringing their herd across the prairies of the American West years after the Civil War has ended. Free grazing was not always welcome in the West, however, and eventually the group is attacked, leaving one man murdered and another near death. The 2 remaining members, Boss and Charlie, must fight for their own justice against a local warlord, effectively, and also decide if their journey together has found its end. The film is directed by Kevin Costner, written by Lauren Payne and Craig Storper, and stars Costner as Charlie, Robert Duvall as Boss, Diego Luna, Annette Bening, Michael Jeter, and somewhat fittingly that we're watching it this week, as he has just passed away, Michael Gambon is in this movie.
He just passed away?
Yes. You didn't see that?
No.
Yeah, a couple days ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Michael Gambon died this
no
week.
Idea.
Yeah, so R.I.P. Dumbledore in real life. So yeah, so we get to watch a Michael Gambon, second Michael Gambon. Well, no, we didn't watch Harry Potter earlier this year, did we?
Not the one with he doesn't come into the third one.
Oh yeah.
Because Richard Harris is
Shutting
still
up.
Dumbledore. Yep.
We got a warrant sworn for attempted murder for them that tried to kill the boy who's laying over there at the docks trying to stay alive. Swore out another one for them that murdered the big fella you had in your cell. Only ours ain't writ by no tin star bought and paid for, Marshal. It's writ by us. We aim to enforce it. Is that so? We got no quarrel with none of you folks. Baxter's men bushwhacked our friend and shot him dead. Shot a 16-year-old boy, too, and clubbed him so hard he might not live. Tried to take our cattle. Your marshal here ain't gonna do nothing about it. You don't like free grazers in this town. We don't much like being here. But a man's got a right to protect his property and his life. And we ain't letting no rancher or his lawman take either.
Our first segment, as always, is Drinking Buddies,
Come on, not my fucking beer.
where we present the beers we will be drinking while rewatching our subject film. As our name would suggest, we cover 4 beers, and Tim will be walking us through our buddies for tonight. So take it away, Tim.
Well, this is all the rage this time of year, but it's
Twice.
been surprisingly.
2 times you've said all the rage.
I know it's. That's
Hey, Daddy-o.
The phrase is all the rage. It's been weird this year. I have not seen it out much anywhere. These fresh hop.
We had none.
Options.
We talked about this last
Yeah,
year. We had
right?
none last year. At least this year, there's a few, like I know of a few. I've had a few this year.
But I think you have to go to, like the breweries to get it. But this
Yes,
was like
there aren't as many released this year for sure.
been annoying. But this one was thankfully Venn Brewing, which you may or may
We've had a couple of those.
probably, yeah,
Yep.
of Minneapolis.
Check the
They're-
website; it's updated.
Love it. They're fresh hop, New England IPA with Citra, Simcoe, and Mosaic. We're gonna
So
start
the
with
fresh hop Northodox.
Fresh
So I've
hop.
had Northodox. I
yeah,
think,
kind of
so-
the flagship IPA, but it's
Yeah.
a fresh hop version.
Okay.
And then my wife and I were in Door County this past weekend,
Mm-hmm.
exploring the wonders of Wisconsin, and picked up a few options. It's a beautiful area. If you
Sure.
haven't been, go to Door County. It's gorgeous.
Okay.
Peach Barn Farmhouse Brewery, which is really good. It's
Hmm.
a cool place, really awesome option. Their road tripping, skinny dipping fruit smoothie that we're gonna have.
It was the sour. you said?
Sour.
Yeah.
And then another one out of this time Green Bay. Their Still Mank Brewing Company, the Perky Porter, which is coffee porter out of Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Sure.
And then the last one we're going to end with is.
Hang on one second.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll probably keep it in there, but yeah, someone's at the front door.
And their last one is LTD Brewing out of Hopkins. Their Night Falls Russian Imperial Stout barrel aged on cacao nibs, which is pretty exciting because this was aged since early 22.
It was bottled in 22.
Yep.
They had done this. So I think we've actually had this in the past. I'd have to double check. I think we
Probably.
actually, I know we've had
a
version of this.
Yes.
It might have been a year prior or something like that. But yeah, it's been aging for now. It's a year and a half since I bought it. And yeah, it was,
I'm excited.
yeah, I don't want to wait too much longer
Sure.
necessarily. And I was like, anniversary episode, we'll have that and the other special beer later. So cool.
Very
Well, thank
excited.
you.
Yes.
All right. Well, that brings us to the social network,
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 20 years ago. Tim takes point on these. So, Tim, what did the critics say?
The IMDb rating is 7.4 out of 10. Peter Rainier.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
That's actually better than I probably would have guessed.
Yeah.
Like, I love this movie, but I just kind of, I guess I would have thought a little lower.
A little
So,
lower, but
Peter
no, it's
Rainier.
a solid range.
Yeah.
See, value, I should say. Peter Rainier of New York Magazine said just about everything in this movie has an antecedent, a little bit of Shane here, a chunk of High Noon there, and so on. And yet it's all rather pleasing in a regressive sort of way. Rex Reed of The Observer, who usually is much more curmudgeonly, said Open Range is a juicy, character-driven Western with a real plot that spins a hypnotic narrative. Roger Ebert, 3.5 out of 4. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Said, modern action movies have unfortunately come to focus on characters who act because they want to win and want to see the other side lose. In contrast, one of the many ways in which the Western has become old-fashioned is that the characters have values and act on those principles. Open Range, an imperfect but deeply involving and beautifully made Western, works primarily because it expresses the personal values of a cowboy and his employee, characters who must grapple with avoiding unnecessary violence and when violence may be needed. The standout here, particularly, is Duval, who embodies Boss's values rather than over-explaining them. His character elevates Open Range from a good cowboy story into the archetypal region where the best Westerns exist.
Nice.
Right? Pretty nice. Academy Awards that year, 0 nominations.
All right. Well, there we go. We are going to pause and rewatch the movie. If you are so inclined, go right ahead and watch along with us. If not, we'll see you on the other side of this break. Here now is Open Range.
Say they hobbled you.
It's been a while since I was in a fight. I panicked. Fell back like you broke my foot.
Ornery old fool.
Well, that damn Cuba cigar got me riled up.
Charlie.
You too, wait here.
Hold on there, Charlie. Hold on.
I ain't looking over my shoulder the rest of my days.
Charlie?
You said we was gonna kill them all. I aim to do just that.
Well, kill him, not murder him.
Splitting hairs, ain't you, boss? Mister, I heard what you said. I won't come after you, I promise. No, I expect you won't.
I can't let you do it, Charlie. You do this, you ain't no different than Poole or Baxter or that gun hand of his that murdered Mose.
Them killing Mo is how this started.
We come for justice, not vengeance. Now, them is two different things.
Not today, they ain't. Step aside!
Listen to him, son. You done what you had to here because they give you no choice. Don't go making this into something bad.
This ain't the way, pard.
Well, welcome back to 20 Years, 4 Beers, where we have just finished rewatching Open Range and have also enjoyed 4 new beers. I was going to say modern beers, as if like we're sitting here like
Archaic
drinking
beers,
aged.
yeah.
Yes. Anyway, we'll review those in the segment coming up. But first, as usual, we jump right into our reaction segment that we call Spotlight.
They knew, and they let it happen.
Where we highlight and discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching the film. Off air, Tim is pretty sure he hasn't seen this since the first time around. So,
I'm
Tim, why don't
confident.
you...
I'm confident.
why don't you start us off?
So when we were talking about the movies to watch this year and putting the schedule together, I'm gonna be very transparent. When this was brought up, that you're like, we should watch this.
Gotta.
I admittedly was like,
Nope.
really?
Yep.
Really? Like, okay. I'm not. It was like, sure. And we always have like the.
And 03 wasn't a banger year. So, I mean, like,
Sure.
it's not like we had
We've
10
cut
others
down
that
some.
were, right.
Yeah, overall. But man, another one to put on tape. Kudos, man.
Thank you.
Really good choice.
Oh, yeah.
To bring this into the podcast, because I know I have not seen it since the theater. And it's one of those movies that we talk about, like, when it can have, like, not the right impact, but more impact, if you will. And I clearly was not in the mindset at 23 watching this, being like, okay, I mean, well, Western, but I'm from Kevin Costner, sure. Man, I really like this.
Yeah.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
It is one we'll talk through some of the details, but overall, just had to like put that out there right away. I'm glad, really glad that we watched this. It was so enjoyable. And yeah, they talk about those like, I don't know, like dad films or like this kind of age of, you know, later in life. This is a perfect one for that. So anyway, kudos, man. I'm glad you pushed for this.
Well, I still don't know anyone else who's seen this film. I mean, you have seen it, but like to talk about it, I don't, you know.
I've seen it, but we were talking about it before we were watching it. I'm like, I remember nothing of this.
And like, this is a movie I recommend to many people and nobody watches it. And I'm like, look, I'm not saying I'm like right all the time, but this is one where I go, if you like this genre of film at all, in any way, shape, or form, whether it be from really, really subtle to like really over the top, like Tarantino or whatever, like if you like this at all, you're gonna enjoy this film.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, like I say, for me, this is a movie I can recommend to almost anyone. Like I mean, again, I guess like Tarantino with Django and his Western style. I can't recommend that to everybody.
No, absolutely not.
Small
absolutely not.
amount of people who could watch that movie.
Totally.
And this is where I go. In fact, they fought for this was an R-rated movie, and actually, it's really not that R-rated. Like,
no.
Right, it is R-rated, and they fought it to a certain extent, but it was more like gritty.
I thought it was like PG-13.
No, it's like it was like gritty violence, but it was like real violence or whatever. It wasn't fake or whatever. So I think maybe that hurt it when it came out. Maybe I don't know. But for me, this is a movie I can recommend to almost anyone. Obviously, we've talked about 310 Yuma before. Like, I'm not going to compare the two, but 310 Yuma is a very, like, there's more action in it.
Yeah.
There's more set pieces. There's more like that. So, but aside from that, boy, I love this movie. I love it unabashedly. I watch it every couple of years. I love this movie. Love it.
So I must admit I'm hit or miss on westerns.
Sure.
And I can see the appeal.
And as I've gotten older, I enjoy them even more than I probably did back in the day.
And that's the thing that stands out for a movie like this.
So you got to watch Unforgiven soon, is what we're saying.
I think I might have to.
Yeah.
Considering we'll talk about another
Eastwood film soon. Yes.
To come. But what stands out for me was I love like the simplicity of westerns, where it's just a clear-cut division between the heroes and the villains.
Yes.
There's no like messing around or nuance. And there are some levels of like depth and, introspection to some of the characters, not the bad guys, but the good guys. Like, why do they do what they do kind of thing in this kind of film? But I just love sometimes westerns just put it out there of clear-cut, these are the bad guys, like the dress, like the very natural, earthy tones for the good guys, and the bad guys,
it's all black.
All in black. It's very much like these are the ones you're going to root against. And what I always love about these kind of movies where, it's late 1800s and it's coming into the idea that the villains are using like the guise of an emerging civilization that's coming, so they can be the sheriff or the town leadership or these kind of areas. And I feel like that's such a staple of all these westerns that I appreciate, where these, ideas of a, organized element are coming together, and the bad guys are like, I'm going to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
And I like it in this, where that somewhat gets flipped on its head, where they're, the baron of this cattle area is owning all these things. And the townspeople, what really struck me was the townspeople are like, this is not what I want.
Right.
That emerges pretty interestingly to me, where it's like it isn't just like a good and bad guys. It's actually like the townspeople will kind of rise up. So I like that it's good and bad, but also you can see that the regular folk, if you will, kind of coming to terms with what has been happening around them that they maybe didn't support. But I just like the simplicity of westerns, where it's just like, yep, that's the bad guy.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I find myself agreeing and disagreeing with you in a sense of like, I agree in the way the films are set up that way. Like it is. And so even like, I found myself halfway through, I always think like with Charlie, like, wouldn't it be great to just have the ability to command a room like guys like Charlie do, like these quote unquote alpha males,
We've heard legend of stuff,
right. Yeah. That like Travis Kelce and like, but these like, you have these people who can just walk into a room and just like, they just know I could get shot in the back, but I don't care right now or whatever. And just that have that confidence.
Very true.
But so I agree on that sense. Like, it is very easy in a Western to know who's good and who's bad.
Yeah.
But what I really have come to appreciate about Westerns is all the good guys have dark pasts.
Yeah. Yep.
And they have chosen, based on their path, to be honorable men and to not go down that path and to no longer go down the path. Like, I love Westerns of saying there's very few saints in Western films and TV. Yep. In old school TV, there were more, but that's because it was just easier that way. But even then, there were still killers. There's still people who had backgrounds or whatever. I love that about Westerns. It is inherently yes, you can see the good and the bad, but then even the good have this sort of like sketchy past that they have chosen to learn from and move forward. And there's that sort of inherent altruism to it of just saying like, no, I'm no longer what I was in the past.
It's a great point. I didn't quite think about that. My favorite Westerns are those where, the hero is not dissimilar to the villain in some ways, but is making a choice to be better than are these kind of things.
Really, any
Yeah.
we could talk about Dark Knight even if you want to really go there. Of saying like these are people who have really they've got very similar paths, and at one point along the way they chose to go one route versus another.
Yeah.
But just I like that about Westerns are simple in a way of saying these people have just chosen good over evil.
Yeah.
But then there's just these depths behind it. And what I like about Open Range a lot is there is at no point is that thrown in your face. At no
True.
point is it you have to fill in the blanks here. There's enough of a dialogue about Charlie, specifically his past, but even Boss's past.
Yeah.
With his family and having a wife and stuff. They have a past, but we know they've just connected about 10 years prior to this. And it's just like, that they did stuff before this that they would never be proud of. But from the moment the two of them came together in what I assume to be 1870, they chose to sort of be like on the right path. I don't know. I like that Westerns have that sort of or this sort of inherent level of depth without having to throw it in my face.
There is a lot of subtlety to this script that I do not remember when I first saw it. Like,
no, and I don't think none of the stuff you talked about critics wise, I don't think none of them had it. Yeah.
And when Ebert talked about the time of the early 2000s, the shift in action movies, and I don't know if they'd call it Western necessarily an action movie because there are moments of action, but I do really appreciate now when he was calling out the values and the principles, integrity, kind of these archetypes of characters that come out in movies like this, where it isn't bold strokes and really clear. I was really impressed with the level of subtlety to the characters and the dialogue that fleshes these things out, and then moments of humor and so I for what it's worth, I think back to I think I watched this summer Dances with Wolves, which really holds up.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Such an amazing film.
Yep.
And I do think when I first saw this, I felt like it was I held it to that standard.
Yeah, which is not fair.
Incorrectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Where it's like, okay, Costner, you're going back to the Western genre. And the films, now having seen them again more recently, are very different in style and very different in what they're trying to tell. I like this type of patient film. I think we talked a lot about how movies get a bad rap for just being slow, when in fact they're just patient. That this is a really great version or example of those stories where you think about it takes its time to lay the characters out, where you're about an hour in and not much has happened.
No,
it's just a few things.
Yeah.
But
you're not bored either at that point.
No.
Like really, it's not like, okay, can we just move this along here? No.
It's compelling.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it and think, okay, there's about 50 minutes left, and they're going back into town and they're going to start to what happened. Yeah, I was like, okay, now I'm really hooked. Really, really hooked. And like the stories of, when they're coming into town and they're having a drink in the bar and they save a puppy, like all these random things.
It's random, yeah.
That don't necessarily clearly define, here's your story or your narrative arc. It adds up to like just flesh these characters out in the story. So I really appreciate a movie that is confident, and kudos to Costner and the screenwriters. Like, we're just going to take our time to tell a really good story. I was really impressed.
All right, so you mentioned Dances with Wolves. I'm going to bring this up because I sat there thinking, like, what this feels like it could have been an alternative way that John Dunbar's life could have gone.
I was thinking the same thing.
After his time in the Civil War, or after his time in the war.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
1880, so we're sitting here 15 years on or whatever,
Well, clearly, Charlie's character is talking about, like, I was in the war.
He was in the war. There's no,
basically,
right. So, like, John Dunbar from Dances with Wolves, he he does this and he moves on and he goes to the outpost and whatever in
Yes.
South Dakota, and he's like kind of doing this thing, and you go, this is just, and he was quiet. He was a quiet person. He was, I mean,
Yeah.
not like it just feels like it just could have been that moment at the end of at the beginning of Dance with Wolves when he, rides the horse across.
Yes.
Which is an overblown scene in terms of like significance. It's actually really cool.
Yes.
But yeah. And then he goes on, and could he have gone, if he had stayed in the military, he could have done this, and he could have gone on to these forts and that kind of stuff. If he had left, he would have been a mercenary. It just would have been like, so I feel like these are just sort of like two very
It's like
similar,
Sliding Doors.
Yeah.
The movie with
Right.
Gwyneth
Which way could you have gone here? And either way, it could have been believable.
Yes.
And it is so, I like the idea of that in terms of, we've talked off like about unintended trilogies, and there's not another one here yet, but had there been like some other Western that would have been like Costner and that, we'd be like, oh man, that could have been a great little unintended trilogy. But
you can't really like shoehorn Yellowstone into this.
No, although I will say,
I feel like
so
these
good,
Costner, he's got a love of Westerns, but anyway. So
be prepared, because the reason why he's off of Yellowstone is he's making like 3 films. He's making like a trilogy of Western, like 1 movie into 3, like Avatar style, like, or whatever, where it's like,
sign me up.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, I love that idea of thinking of this in terms of now not comparing it to Dances with Wolves, but sort of using that as a appreciation piece of saying, because you're right, it was probably a detriment back then. I'd be like, well, it's no Dances with Wolves. Like, yeah, no shit. But in a lot of ways, this is like that went one way and now this went another.
Yeah.
And they're both really good.
Yes. So I must say that I don't have much of a like movie experience with Robert Duvall.
Oh yeah.
Outside of the high points of, Apocalypse Now, The Godfather.
Yeah.
Like,
have you seen that yet?
I've seen it once and I hated it, so I gotta watch it again.
Yeah,
Who knows? I could be surprised.
As I'm older,
I should. I probably actually should.
We'll
should.
watch it. We can record it after. Yeah.
I would say that again, he's a cultural presence in terms of Hollywood and the movie kind of world.
Yeah, man. Boo Radley on till now.
Oh, that's my trivia. All right.
No
worries. It was a good one. We'll come back to it. No, don't ruin it. We'll come back.
Although I watch that movie literally once a year, so you
right? I know. It was more like for the listener, like
I get it. Okay,
we'll get there. It's a good callback. He's so freaking good in this.
Yeah,
he's unreal.
Yeah,
that I could not have appreciated. I think when I first saw this.
Yeah,
in terms of
he's so good.
He
is so good. In this.
He's so subtle and unassuming and just like, it's rare that you can see a movie with a character that is just dripping with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like you said,
I literally just mentioned another film with that, To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, I mean, it's
very
weird.
Well, that's true. Yeah, actually, yeah.
From a career standpoint,
Gregory Peck and him. Yep.
Yeah, it is rare. Yeah,
but when he talks about his life before this ranching with his wife and daughter, and they died, and his Oregon
Trail style of dying of typhoid or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. No dysentery, unfortunately.
No dysentery. That's what it was.
Yes.
Sorry.
But he's so touching in that, and his clear affection for Button, and it's hard to describe how good he is with doing so little.
Yeah.
That when it comes to the fight sequence, he's just kind of almost relegated out of the way, but you can see when he's going to have an impact. So I don't know. I was not prepared for how good Robert Duvall, because his delivery, his voice, like not syntax, but just how he delivers lines is somewhat odd with some of these things. But yeah, I don't know. I would recommend watching it because then you can see someone like Robert Duvall go, okay, now I see why he's a freaking icon in Hollywood. He's
totally.
so damn good.
Yeah, so for me, like some of the acting in this is a little meh at times. There are some, especially from Annette Bening, God bless her. She doesn't have a lot to work with.
No.
But it is very clear that everyone involved does appreciate the characters, and it's not that anyone was mailing it in, or even that the screenplay was inherently bad. Just the acting wasn't very good. But yeah, Robert Duvall is so great in this, and he just embodies Boss Spearman of just like, he's not a perfect man. He wouldn't claim to be perfect. No. He just believes in he believes in a certain code, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, if it weren't for Sean Penn and Mystic River coming up soon, we might be having a conversation of our like best performance by an actor in a movie award later this year. Like, and we still might, depending on how it shakes out. Like, he is so good in this from the moment he starts. You just are like, and that's no knock to Costner. And I think what it works really well from Duvall's standpoint is Costner is what you would think in a Western is what like Clint Eastwood in a lot of his, especially in Unforgiven. They're quiet, they're reserved, they don't talk about things. No. Whereas like Boss Spearman is like, he won't shut up. He talks about everything.
Exactly.
But he's an honorable man, and he's doing this, and the two of them work so well off of each other. I think Costner's outstanding in this as well, but it really is Duvall's movie.
Absolutely. Yes.
Visually speaking, we have to talk about this. I love a movie that can be so fucking beautiful and have no visual effects of any kind and no green screen and they just go out of their way and they're like, we're going to wait for the light. The light's got to be right. Here it is. Like, it is a stunning movie without being purposefully stunning. Like, I feel like there are movies who wait for the perfect shot.
Sure.
And this movie was like, we just need a good enough shot behind. Like we just need the mountains to be visible.
Yes.
And we'll make this work. It doesn't have to be purposefully gorgeous. They just went and were like, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to find this like huge plot of land that's beautiful all the time, and we'll just film it. Like, that's
see how it goes.
Yeah.
And have rain for like 50 minutes.
Well, yeah, and they did pump in rain, but still.
They took a bold choice of, we're going to actually have it be really...
a visually... Oh, man. It is so... Not perfect, but it is damn near close. Like, we talked about, there's that shot I love. Actually, cinematography-wise, it's actually really good, too. The camera choices. But, like, the crowd watching the shootout in the end, and you're just like, they're just off in the background. They're just like sitting off there. They're just sitting there. I love it. The visuals in this are really good.
Well, the visuals and the choice like that, where you think about, I don't know that I can think of a Western that I've seen where it has that level of, not detail, but the interest of these towns clearly knew shit was going to go down. And I had never seen a movie before, and now watching again, like, where the townspeople just get up and leave.
Yeah.
And just watch the carnage.
But they watch. But they would have. This was theater.
Totally.
Like, this was theater.
Well, and protection for their family. I mean, some in the stores are like, get out of town, but whatever. I agree. I was thinking, my question was somewhat rhetorical, but like, when a movie like this comes out as being developed, do you think actors or, people to sign up because they're like, hey, we're going to go into the middle of nowhere in the most gorgeous parts of the country and establish a little town and have many, many days of filming, and we're going to hope for the best visual of this. I wonder if they're like, yep, sounds good. I just want to hang out.
Yeah, I mean, depending on your family obligations, but like Lord of the Rings too, you're going to give me 18 months and just in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's like The Revenant, where they're like, we're going to go in the worst parts where it's so cold and like break your soul. Maybe you're like, I'm not sure I'm going to do that. But for this, like, it's going to be gorgeous summer.
Yep.
Hanging out in the mountains of wherever. And I just think if I was an actor, I'd be like, yep, sign me up. Absolutely.
Yeah. I do like, though, that they went out of their way to not tell us where this took place.
Yep.
Like, it was, we know it's the American West.
It's just West.
We know it's just West. It's not Montana. It's not whatever. It's just like, it exists in its own sort of thing.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to claim this is a perfect movie, but while there might be some quibbles on the acting and things like that, I don't have any other points. Just watch this movie. Like, a lot of people who don't like Westerns, I tell them to watch this movie, and nobody listens, because hello. But also, and I say 310 Yuma, but 310 Yuma is more action-based.
Yes.
To me, this is the Western to watch. This is like, tell me a story. We're gonna talk about Mystic River here in a little while, which again, you talk about, it takes its time. You know what I mean? It's telling me a story, and that's great if you do it well.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that with Mystic River. I think it does well. But this also, like, tell me a story. I don't recommend 310 Yuma to people who maybe don't want action and suspense and things like that, although I think that really works well.
Yeah.
If I wanted to believe, I believe this movie is more like close. I would think this is more closely what the American West would be.
Yeah.
It just is like nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. There's no action or anything like that until the last. And so when he does blammo to the face on the guy, even you did it. You were like, you reacted. We're like, this is so out of place.
Yeah.
Because everyone is just calm and, but then blam, there's this
what was really great
10-minute shootout that's so good.
And I think the shootout at the end is really interesting because quite often, and I'll talk a bit in Mystic River about the manipulation, score quite often is used to like force a reaction or a feeling from somebody.
Yeah.
I was amazed by the lack of score with this.
Yep.
Where it's
there
where it needs to be, but in the shootout there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just the violence and the shooting and the sounds, and I really appreciate that's what Costner wanted to have, is kind of feel like jarring where this isn't going to be, we're going to build tension, it's going to be on the edge of your seat. It's just them putting the pieces together and then two men against an army of 8 to 10 and boom, boom, boom. And it just goes from there. So I really appreciate it. And I definitely feel like 310 Yuma is a cool style of a Western. This definitely felt more like a throwback style of a Western
Slow
that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
I really liked it. It was good.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. You have anything else?
I do not.
All right. So as we close out our Spotlight segment, we come to our final takes called The Verdict.
I'm going up there. I'm going to try it. I'm going to let the jury decide.
This is where Tim and I give our final verdicts after watching the film and decide whether or not the movie held up over the course of 2 decades. Tim, why don't you get us started?
I'll be short and sweet.
Yeah.
A solid Western telling a compelling story of good versus evil in a time when there are no easy choices, when men with integrity must stand up against bad men. Solid direction from Costner, returning to a genre where he clearly thrives, with a standout performance from Robert Duvall in a role that, oddly enough, he seems destined to be.
Lonesome Dove, man.
I just think he's so good in this. So 4 to 5 for me.
Yeah.
I honestly was shocked that I took very few notes because I was just like, I like this. It's a really compelling, interesting story for me. Yeah, 4 to 5.
Perfect. For me, this is exactly what a Western should be. Slow moving, but not in a negative way. Story building at its finest, especially without preaching to us, I guess, is the way, and a climax that delivers. While there may be, quote, better Westerns out there in terms of the genre, whether it be Unforgiven or 310 Yuma, this movie just simply delivers on a great minimalist or simple story. It's not over the top in violence or blood. In fact, it really quite should be like a PG-13 rating.
I think so.
But when it needs to be, it's gritty and violent, and it does so very well. There are definitely some quibbles and things that maybe we can nitpick, but when it comes to a Western, I would recommend this over almost any other Westerns in terms of the genre. I have 4 to 5 as well.
Nice.
Get ready for that, because you have a bottle opener.
I do indeed.
Perfect. All right. Well,
a branded bottle opener. No
look
less.
at that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Check our website to not be able to buy it. Well, as mentioned at the outset, we are celebrating our 3rd anniversary with this episode. And before we get into our beer reactions, we're going to crack open a now 2-year aged 120-minute IPA from Dogfish Head Brewing Company in Delaware. we definitely really enjoyed this 2 years ago when we had it for the first time. I think both of us, it was the first time.
It was the first time, yes.
And decided then to save it for a year, since the brewery claims even on their label, it says it ages well.
Age it for a decade.
Yeah.
I'm still curious about it age an IPA, but
we had it last year and we did enjoy it, but maybe I don't think either one of us thought it was like, oh my God, it's so much better a year later.
Sure.
So we'll see what we have here. So thank you, sir.
There you go.
Cheers, Clinky.
Oh, sorry. Come
Yeah,
here.
you're fine. Clinky.
3 years, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
This has been great.
I couldn't decide if I wanted to get a montage going for our anniversary episode.
Even Rocky loves a montage.
Yeah. But I usually do them for the year end, so this will be no different. So there's no
smells really
montage
good.
coming up here. So that's fine.
You blew it!
It does. Yeah. I mean, it's so hard. Like, I almost want to buy a new one, but I don't want to spend like $40 for the fucking 4-pack.
Dude.
I know. It's so good.
How do they do this?
I know. It is better than last year, I feel like. If I had
It
to think
is.
back.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So I do feel like
same thing.
a year on, it felt like it was the same. I think I guess I could play it. Maybe I'll finally do something and listen back to one of our episodes
Maybe.
for the first time ever. And like,
It didn't taste different. This tastes different.
I feel like I would go back and find the audio and be like, huh, it's good, but it's like, no, this is
Wow. All right.
Mm.
We're going to... Holy cow.
Mm.
I don't know how they do this.
Yeah, if we could tap in like somehow differently, this would be a 5 out of 5 probably.
Yes.
Like I bet if we look back to the initial ratings, it was probably 4.75 or 4.5.
Yep.
Which I don't think either one of us tapped in. After,
Probably
so
not,
let's
but
find
I
out.
think this is... I don't know how they do this.
Yeah.
Every beer geek out there will tell you do not age IPAs.
No.
It's just like not going to happen. So
See.
how they do this with dry hopping it for a month
Both of us were 4.75.
and then age it. I don't know how they do this.
October 3rd of 2021,
Yes.
and we're sitting here on September 30th of
Yeah, a couple days away.
2023. Just a couple days away. Both of us had 4.75. I'd probably go 5 on this one. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's hard to rate a beer that's 5 because it wasn't a 5 when you created said beer,
Yeah.
right? But then like 2 years on or
With the
whatever, but
intent
this is
being you would-
outstanding. I know. I'm like, God damn. Now I wish I had more.
I'm so frustrated. It's so good.
I know. It's like, I do love, I was 2 years ago when I put the montage together, I was like, ooh, hello. This is like, because neither of us, when we did have this the first time, I don't think we expected how good it was going to be
Yes.
the first time around.
Absolutely.
And I thought this would be back what we had last year, which was still good.
Oh my God.
Mm.
Sorry, listener. Thank you for being patient because holy
I know.
shnikes.
Speaking of,
So
yeah, I'm
what we're
just gonna-
saying
I'm
is
just sorry,
buy this beer
yeah, I'm just like clenching my chair.
and
Like,
wait
it's been so long.
3 years for it.
I don't. And I was like, that is such an inherent problem of aging
True.
beers. We've had 2 tonight. Now
Tonight,
this
yeah.
was bought this in 2021. It was 2 years. The Barrel Age LTD, which we'll cover in here in
Almost
a
2
few minutes.
years, yep.
It's almost 2 years. I'll talk about that. When it's done well, it's really great. But then what happens when it's done poorly?
Yeah.
I had to wait for this.
Yeah.
Like, that's just
It
rude,
was
man.
not worth the wait.
All right. Well,
so let's talk about okay.
congratulations on 3
Congrats,
years,
man.
Tim.
This
There
is
we
great.
go. We've worked really hard sitting in your basement. So anyway, that with our reactions to the movie out of the way, we move on to our reactions to the beer, aside from the one we just opened, that we drank while rewatching the movie. So that brings us to our beer reaction segment that we affectionately call Drinking Buddies, the sequel.
Let's get weird.
Where we take a look back at our beers and give our expert ratings. Tim will bring us back through. So what do we got, Tim?
We started the evening with Venn Brewing's Fresh Hop Northodox New England style IPA.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was a 4.
Mhm.
In as much as it was a nice option to have a fresh hop beer. Haven't seen much out right now.
Mhm.
I don't know if I was hoping for more of that like fresh type of
Yeah.
like, I don't know, right from the field. You know, it was canned September 1st, so I feel like it's not as fresh as maybe that could have been, but it was good. I liked it. It was fresh. It was like, all right, a different kind of than the regular one, but it was not what I was maybe hoping for as far as like, ooh, I can really feel kind of the fresh hops. So it was good. It was a 4 for me.
Yeah, I have a 4 out of 5 as well. And I think I almost ranked it lower because
Sure.
I think the regular Unorthodox, I have a 4 out of 5. And it's like, it tasted just like a regular Unorthodox that I've had.
Yes.
There was nothing fresh hoppy about it. There was nothing like, it just tasted
right from
like,
the vine.
Yeah,
Yep.
it just tasted like a non-bad beer.
I agree.
But I was like, okay. So I had a 4 or 5 as well.
And then we had Peach Barn Farmhouse and Brewery from Door County, Wisconsin.
Wow.
Their road tripping, skinny dipping fruit smoothie sour. I liked this a lot.
Yeah.
It was a 4.25 for me. And just having it last weekend, they have a cherry one that I had, peach one. This one was really, really good. I liked it a lot. 4.25.
Yeah, I do too. I can't stop thinking about the beer that's in my hand right now, though. Like, it's so good.
It is.
I just
really
want to lower the rest of the ratings. Be like, you fuckers don't even know.
A 2.
You don't even know what is happening right now. I have a 4.25 as well. I never obviously had anything out of them. I think I liked about it for me was it was a really good balance on the sour side.
True.
It wasn't too tart, and then it wasn't too like smoothie, creamy sour.
Yeah,
like
like
it was a
glop.
really good balance to it. So it was 4.25 as well.
I liked it a lot. Then we had Still Make Brewing.
I'm here, Tim.
Still Make Brewing out of Green Bay, Wisconsin.
It's Still Mank, like M-A-N-K.
Still Make. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. It's
I don't know why
weird
it
name.
came together.
It's just a weird
name. It's a really weird one.
Right.
Their Perky Porter coffee porter. It was a 4 for me. We opened it and we were both like, "Whoo, there's some good coffee kick to it." Yeah, I liked it. I don't know if it's like a porter or stout difference. The porter was a bit cleaner, but I liked it a lot. It was a 4 for me.
I ended up with a 3.75. It was too much coffee for me.
Gotcha.
There wasn't enough porter. Like, to me, if you're going to have... It just tasted like coffee. There was no porter or stout or anything. Like, it just was like, okay, they did a really good job of bringing the coffee forward.
I find some of them are like too subtle, but
the balance, right? So some we've had in the past that are like, I can't taste the coffee on
like
this.
Fulton's, like, really?
Yeah, you're kind of like, oh, the coffin dodger, or whatever.
Yes.
Right. So that, which is a detriment. So kind of like, well, if it's detriment, if it's a bad balance
Too
on
little?
the right. So
sure,
I threw some. It was fine. I finished it. It was good. But I'm like, okay,
it's good. And then we had LTD Brewing, their Night Falls Russian Imperial Stout, barrel aged on cacao nibs, from early 2022.
Well, that's before you give your rating. That's when it was bottled.
Yes.
This batch is their 2021 anniversary batch, and what they did was they held back. They aged another X amount for another 6 months, and then they sold it to their like Sip Club members or whatever, you know. And so it was the same one as they had released in the summer, but then they aged it another 6 months on cacao nibs or whatever. So it technically was initially brewed in 2021, but then it aged, and then they bottled it in January of 2022.
Can you repeat the part of this stuff where you said all about the things?
However they put it together, holy God.
Yeah.
It's really good. It was a 4.5.
Yeah.
For me.
Short of the Dogfish Head, this would have been the best beer of the night by far.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really glad the aging process, like,
really good.
Yeah, I've had this version. I've had their Nightfall, this sort of like Nightfall's Russian Imperial Stout every year for the last like 8 years or whatever. And this is outstanding.
It's really good.
Yeah.
When we talk about aging things, this is a prime example of
again
sitting around,
yeah,
having it just chill out,
yeah,
and enjoying it.
I think I've said it like 3 times on this on our show. Very few places do barrel aging as well as LTD does when they want to do it.
Agreed.
It's so good. The only knock on this, I think I would have put it a little higher. It's supposed to have chocolate and vanilla notes to it. And they were there, but I think the aging maybe overshadowed that a little bit.
More barrel.
But holy cow, it was good.
It was really, really smooth.
Solid night for beer, though. I mean,
It's-
I
agree.
4.25, like nothing bad, and easily, I would say, arguably potentially our best beer that we've had in 3 years.
Yes.
In this,
Yes.
I don't think we've had 2 5s.
No, we have not.
Considering I've literally ranked 3 beers
Yeah.
ever in my life,
True.
5, so
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure
no,
not.
Yeah.
This is outstanding. So good beer night, good anniversary.
Good 3
beers.
years, man.
So our final segment of our anniversary episode is Quiz Show.
The exciting quiz program 21.
Where in our research for the film, we find some interesting trivia nuggets that we hope will stump you or stump the other and possibly intrigue you, our dear listeners. And obviously, Tim's did not stump me. So, this is what happens when Tim does all the research and I do my trivia while we're watching the movie. And here we go. So, Tim, would you like to ask yours so you
I'll
can feel
ask
good
it
about
so we
it?
can go. Yeah.
And then I have 2.
I have another one, but this was.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
Excuse me.
Robert
I thought
Duvall.
You had one. All right.
I'm like
talking down at you.
Yeah,
Like,
I
okay.
thought you
Oh
had.
my god! You and your piddly little
You
trivia.
dullard. Robert Duvall is a Hollywood legend, earning 7 Oscar nominations throughout his career. Yet he had his big screen debut, albeit silently, in what classic 1962 film.
It's so good. It is To Kill a Mockingbird. It is so good.
It's such a.
I watch it annually. That is a top 5 favorite film for me of all time.
That is the most formative book in my entire
and the
life.
book, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That book changed how I looked at books, and
Yeah.
I agree. When I saw the movie after, I'm like, oh god, this is so good.
It is, and then it's actually a really good example of you can do both. You can have
Yes.
a great book and have a great movie, and understand that they're 2 different things. Like it's not a word for word adaptation like The Client. Like it is. There are differences there.
Yes.
But yeah, oh man, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And actually, the play also worked out really well too. So,
I want to see that.
in order to make sure he could make this movie, Kevin Costner had to turn down another role around this time. He was offered and declined what titular, right? From a title?
Yeah, titular. Yeah.
Titular role
Titular.
in another 2003 film that we will soon be covering.
Oh my gosh.
And not a lot of time left.
What are we still to watch? It's
That has the name in the title too.
It's on our list?
Mhm.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think of the ones we have
You
on our
can't
list.
look it up either.
I know. I'm not going. I could look at the calendar. I am drawing a blank.
He was offered and declined Bill in Kill Bill.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Yep.
Which I'm actually okay with.
No, totally. Yeah.
When you watch it,
David Carradine or whatever.
Carradine,
Yeah. Absolutely is better. But yeah, he was offered and declined.
But maybe. No, it's good
I
for
think
that.
Costner
Yeah.
still would have been really good in that role.
Yeah, I agree.
A small little role or whatever like
Yes.
that. But yeah, he was, in order to make this movie, he had to turn that down. I don't think he was like, I think it was between Carradine, him, and a couple other people. But like
Sure.
he
He's
was
like, I
like,
can't do it.
he pulled himself from the running.
Oh, I like that. the title is good. So
Titular.
Annette Bening has been nominated for 2 Academy Awards.
What? Just 2?
Well, sorry, maybe more. I'm just thinking about how she,
I'm like,
how
wait
she-
a second
how
here.
she- sorry.
I'm pretty sure it's more.
How
I'll
she-
let you.
how she
I'll let
lost
you
out
figure that. Yeah.
2 specifically to Hilary Swank.
Oh, I gotcha.
Like,
all right.
vexing
2
her. Yeah,
times
sorry, yeah.
she has been nominated
Yes,
when
bested
Hilary Swank has also
by her.
Gotcha.
And it starred in a slew of major motion pictures.
Yeah.
Yet she had her big screen debut in what 1988 Dan Aykroyd and John Candy starring family comedy.
The Great Outdoors.
Indeed.
Yeah. I was like, wait, I'm blank. Why am I blanking on
Yeah.
this all of a sudden?
I did not know. I mean, I remember watching and be like, she's in this movie?
Yeah.
And I did not realize that was her big
I
screen
actually
debut.
didn't either.
No.
I did not either. Good trivia.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So good. That movie's so good.
I think I have this thing about Annette Bening. I actually don't think. I'm not shocked that she has not won an Oscar in terms
Sure.
of her talent.
Yeah.
I think she's a great actress.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But when people are like, oh my God, how has she not won? We're not talking about Kate Blanchett and Meryl Streep here. Like,
I agree.
like, Amy Adams doesn't have an Oscar. I mean, like, I'm more shocked about Amy Adams not having an Oscar than I am about Annette Bening.
Yeah.
And when I watch this movie and I go, Yeah, she's fine in it.
Yeah, she's fine.
It's not her fault.
No.
She is the sort of damsel in the world of whatever.
Somewhat
Although I will
arbitrary.
say, when Charlie comes around and saves her and just like blows that guy away,
Yeah, right.
that is
Boom.
such like the
Yes.
most badass. Like, absolutely.
I agree.
Like,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
If I were her, I'd be like, I'm marrying or effing that guy.
And yeah, sorry. She's been nominated 4 times. but
Four
whatever. Yes,
times.
yes.
Yeah. So, all right. And probably this year again, too. I mean, I will say she lost to Hilary Swank for Boys Don't Cry and the Year of American Beauty, I think.
Yes.
And Hilary Swank is great in that, but Annette Bening is outstanding in American
Yes.
Beauty as
Yes.
that sort of like lost housewife.
Like everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
And this is like
Yeah.
all falling
She
apart.
is
yeah.
really good in that.
Yes.
Yeah, I will say. So, all right. So in the movie, Robert Duvall calls Michael Jeter's character, Percy,
Mhm.
old timer. Calls him old timer many times.
Mhm.
However, Duvall was actually older than Michael Jeter.
Had to be.
Yeah. How much older was Duvall than Michael Jeter at the time of this film? Well, in general, I mean, that's not like
15
time.
years older.
It's a random guess,
Yes.
I assume.
It is.
It is. So at the time, Michael Jeter was 50. He actually passed away soon after this, unfortunately. And
Oh,
Duvall,
Duvall
was
was like 70.
71.
Yeah, yeah.
They were 21 years apart. And he's sitting there like, hey, old timer or whatever. And yeah, meanwhile, which is, I mean, you kind of go like, oh my God, 21 years. Meanwhile, literally months after they finish filming this, Jeter does pass away, unfortunately.
Jeter passed away.
R.I.P. to him. Also, again, R.I.P. to Michael Gambon, who does a really good, we haven't talked about him. He does a really good job of just that sort of, just that hateful, yeah, I don't know. He does such a good job. I mean, don't you feel like he's just Elon Musk and the,
In
like this, like
1882?
yeah, and he's
Yeah.
like this immigrant who comes in and is like, get out of my town.
I
Like,
didn't
just
come
feel
here
like,
to
I didn't come
America."
here to allow you to take my land.
Free Ranger Teslas.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say that I do appreciate a movie like this where I usually lament like mustache twirling villains.
Oh yeah.
But he clearly relishes
Oh, he does such a good job.
like
Yeah.
that type of
Yeah.
swinging for the fences. Like, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I believe. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I love about this screenplay too. Is there's so much like how, yeah, he built his ranch and the town, but still these people came along for the ride. Like there's a story there of this. Like there's you know, Taylor Sheridan, make a show about this.
Sure.
About that upbringing.
1882.
1867 or whatever it is. Like,
Yep.
yeah. But I will say also Yellowstone is outstanding. So, all right. So that'll bring us to the end of our anniversary episode. Stay tuned for upcoming 20 Years, 4 Beers happy hour on, what are we doing? Mystic River?
Yep.
And future episodes where we discuss
Kill Bill
Volume 1, because I just talked about it. And then we'll do a fun little combination
Two-parter.
a two-parter, Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions.
Nice.
We'll watch those. So we'll have a rare covering two
Happy hour
films.
covering
at the
two
same
films.
Time. We're going to have to like set aside a weekend for
That'd
that.
be crazy.
We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for clicking that like or subscribe button on your devices. If you are so inclined, please click the support link in our bio and on our websites and consider supporting us in other ways. The metaverse of Facebook, Instagram, and Threads is where we call our home, as well as 20years4beers.com, which is updated with all information.
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, yeah. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Oh my God. You and your piddly little
You
trivia.
dullard.
Look, I'm not saying I'm like right all the
Sure.
time.
You were right.
Yay.
Oh, that's my trivia. All right.
Oh.
I'm so frustrated. It's so good.
Cut!
Another one to put on tape. Really good choice.
Oh, yeah.
I totally agree.